turning to nutraceuticals, I do believe it may not be your major focus right now, but you did work on with a supplement company on a nutraceutical. Could you talk about that? I mean, what did you look for, and what did you propose?
Sure. So in the past, at the very inception of insilico, so around 2015, we actually partnered with a company called Life Extension, Life Extension Foundation, and so it's a nonprofit. Together with them, we formulated a nutraceutical combo. Our first one was N-acetylcysteine, miracetin, EGCG, and toctrinol. So vitamin E is on the label, but it's not because we discovered it, just because it comes from one of the ingredients in this formula. It has to be on the label. And the company the Life Extension Foundation successfully marketed this nutraceutical. I'm actually taking it myself from time to time, right? Because I think that it might work, might not, we don't know. But we did the in vitro study, and it did show some anti-senescent properties, all of those compounds that were predicted utilizing our kind of early forms of AI. Then we actually decided not to go into this direction as a company, because we wanted to go specifically after therapeutics, because that's where it's actually a much more credible field, right? And you can utilize the biomarkers. The problem with partnering with a nutraceutical company, very often it's difficult to measure the biomarkers in that large population that takes a lot of other stuff, that lives very different lifestyles, and does not have a certain disease. It's difficult to enroll them in a clinical trial. So it would be very difficult to make an educated claim, right? So right now we are partnering with SRW and also looking at other opportunities in the natural chemical space that can be sold as grass, right? Generally recognized as safe, in order to develop a formula that comes out of the biomarker. So AI biomarker, next level AI, and then could be measured and monitored using another independent biomarker that is more predictive of your chronological age, of your biological age and chronological age. And with that, we are very hopeful that the collaboration with SRW is going to be even more successful, because it's biomarker augmented from the very beginning. So the idea is to track what's happening after people took the drug, took the nutraceutical, right? You need to track the effects in humans. But of course, in the beginning, you start with massive human data, biological data from open resources, also multi-omics data coming from mice, monkeys, and other animals, and looking at large chemical data sets. AI makes those choices for potential geroprotectors. You can look at a lot of our published work. And then we do in vitro studies looking at if those predicted molecules work in vitro models of aging. And then, of course, if you want to go human and test, you need to put it on the market and somehow figure out that people use the biomarkers. And to help them do this, we realized that the limiting factor is actually physicians. So physicians are the most important stakeholder group that holds the keys to conducting clinical trials, to working with patients, to put longevity medicine into clinical practice. And in 2020, I launched, together with several other MD, PhD scientists, a course for physicians called Longevity Medicine. It's Longevity Medicine 101, 201. It's CME accredited. And we were extremely surprised when several thousand physicians in the US, mostly internists, took this course And it was highly rated on Udemy originally, and then we put it on Teachable. And it's actually partly a cautionary tale, right? So we explain that most of the things out there, they do not work, right? And diet, exercise, sleep, well, do what your mama told you, right? So we need to think beyond that, but it's also a little bit too early to think beyond that in a clinical practice. So you just need to stay aware and be very close to the recent academic publications and research groups, and currently work on biomarkers of aging, because that's something that we can test in the clinic and validate, right? And then try to apply that knowledge to already very well-known drugs and other therapeutic interventions. We also developed an annual conference, so you can see it in my background. It's called the ARDD, Aging Research and Drug Discovery Meeting. I founded it in Basel in Switzerland in 2013. Now it's in its 11th year. So it's an annual event. Now at the University of Copenhagen, it's the largest event in longevity biotechnology. So a lot of people who study the science of aging, and also a lot of longevity medicine clinicians, they come to this conference. It's a 5-day event. There is a longevity medicine day managed by Evelyn Biskup, Dr. Evelyn Biskup, MD, PhD. And that's the platform where pharmaceutical companies, biotechnology companies, academics, and medical doctors meet in the most credible way possible to discuss that exact challenge. How do we put the most recent and advanced interventions, including nutraceuticals, into the clinic, and how do we monitor whether they work or not? So currently, it's work in progress. In my opinion, nothing works tangibly because there are no human clinical trials conducted. And we know that there is a huge wave of advances in aging biomarkers. And with that, I would like to introduce Deepankar Nayak, the CEO of Deep Longevity, who just joined. Deep Longevity used to be a spin-off out of insilico medicine that worked on many different biomarkers of aging. I think we published more than 20 different ones and patented multiple. And in 2019, it became an independent company. In 2020, 2021, it got sold to Region Pacific, a publicly traded company in Hong Kong. And it became an independent company under a publicly traded umbrella, and got its own CEO and the research group and the development group based worldwide. It's a very US, Europe focused company with a development team mostly focused, mostly in Europe and in India. So, because currently, geopolitics require you to be either in West or China East. So this company is very Western. And led by Deepankar Nayak. Now it has, in my opinion, I think it's the largest one in its field, supplying aging biomarkers as a service to the community. And many, many, many clinics have deployed their biomarkers now. So Deep, off to you. I will have to drop off because I am actually, as always, I'm traveling and I'm in the airport. So I apologize to your audience for possible background noise and the coloring here. But I have to do it in the traveling mode because my primary purpose in life is to develop novel therapeutics for aging and age-associated diseases, and have to be on the go constantly. And sometimes it's great to update the audience on our latest progress. And thank you for inviting me on your podcast.
Alex, thank you so much for making the time to join us today, especially from the airport. And have a good travel.
Thanks, you.
Alex.
Thank you.
Good to see you. We'll catch up later. Safe travels.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Deep, could you introduce deep longevity. So Alex introduced deep longevity a bit, but could you talk a little bit more about the kind of the biological markers that you develop, particularly the biological clocks?
Sure, Richard. Happy to, and first of all, thank you so much for having me here. See, at Deep Longevity, we are focused on developing aging clocks. Now, as the field of longevity expands and so much of innovation is already happening and is going to continue to happen in terms of drug development, I'm sure Alex would have spoken extensively about that. But not like even beyond that, right? At a clinical setting, there are new interventions, protocols, practices being developed using which people can stay rejuvenated and live longer.
Mm.
Now, when you're doing all of these things, you need some measures, um, qualitative and quantitative measures, using which you could actually determine that certain course of action is effective, right? So we provide that quantitative measure, right? So either you can sort of wait for the next 60, 80 years and see whatever you did is actually helped you, or you can actually look to track your biological age. So that's what we are doing at Deep Longevity. We have multiple aging clocks that we are commercializing, namely Blood Age, which is our most popular offering, but we also have epigenetic age, biometrics age, microbiomes, as well as mind age.
If we think about the clocks, right? So you have multiple clocks. Are they how are they related to each other? And do they correlate? I mean, if you have like a young mind age, would you have a young epigenetic age? Do you have the data that would tell you how they correlate?
Yeah, that's a great point, and that's, I think, heavily debated. Um, the aging is a complex process, right?
Mm.
And at and this is sort of, I think, being understood as more research is being done, that different organ systems in the body would age differently, right? You
Mhm.
may have poor kidney system, but a stronger cardiovascular system, right? And while one system would affect another, their pace of aging is different. So what we are doing is we are actually observing and we are calculating different clocks using different data types. We have not looked to combine them yet. I think that would be sort of the holy grail in the aging clock and longevity industry, where you can actually have that one true measure which will tell you and give you a story across your entire biological systems. But short of that, what we have seen is, if you are biologically older, implying that your health needs to be improved, then the clocks should lean in that direction. They should be able to tell you that you are biologically older. Now, being based on different data types, they have different accuracies. Now, a blood age clock would have an MAE of, let's say, ours has about 5.5 years, which implies that if you are biologically older from a blood age standpoint for 4 or 5 years, then that is really significant, and you really need to pay attention and do something. Whereas for an epigenetic age, the MAE would be about 3 years, which means that from an epigenetic age standpoint, if you are biologically older by, let's say, 3 years, then it's sort of borderline, and you should have a real concern in terms of what you are doing. So the numbers would be different for different aging clocks, but they would be leaning in the same direction.
Okay. I saw Alex was talking about precious one GPT, trying to put the clocks together. Uh, are you kind of working on that? And would you, I mean, would it even make sense to have a single number?
Yeah, so that's what I was saying. That there's a lot of debate on that.
Whether,
We are doing some investigations. We think, looking at the aging clock in themselves, there is a lot of value. there's a lot of value in sort of, trying to have practices and protocols and interventions based on consistent readings of the same aging clock over a period of time. So you really know your pace of aging, and you really get to know what is sort of changing that depending upon which aging clock you are aging and you are using. And what we have seen is blurred age in that sense works most consistently and tells you a story which you can understand and you can model your behavior on. We have not looked at combining them yet. That is going to be a very comprehensive exercise. Being an AI-driven company, it also depends on having access to the right data set to do that, but perhaps in the future.
Okay. Could you talk about the mind clock? What do you use to kind of calibrate the mind clock, and what is it based on?
Yeah, that's one of my favorite topics. So let me sort of give some context, and I say that I say that very often when I speak to customers, people in the industry. Now you would exercise and go to the gym and play sports and do all of these things not because you are sick. You do this because you are healthy and you want to stay healthy. However, very few people do things consciously around their mental health. But the same paradigm should apply to mental health as well. You would want to do things consciously based on your personality so that you are active and you are resilient. But what happens often with mental health is that people look at that when they feel that they need help. When they are stressed or overworked or they feel anxious, then they think, okay, I need to do something about my mental health now. Now, we have done studies and we have published, and that has been our most popular study, I have to say, where we actually showed that if you have a poor psychological state, then you age faster. So your mental health has an impact on your physical, biological age, biological health as well. So much so that if you have poor psychological state, you age faster than if you are a smoker. And we know how bad smoking is. Therefore, what we are doing with MindAge is we are not trying to establish or qualify if the person has a certain mental health condition, whether it is stress, anxiety, bipolar, or any of these conditions. What we are saying is this is based on a set of proprietary questionnaire, and then using that questionnaire, the AI creates a psychological profile. And then based on that profile, it establishes what we call as an island of emotional stability. Where are you? And what is the next higher plane of well-being that you can aspire to achieve? And if you do that, then you would be more resilient and able to handle your everyday stress and everyday life much better. So that's the construct of the mind age.
How modifiable is that? I mean, how do you get to the next level? What kind of exercises? I mean, you go down, we know how to exercise, right? We go down the gym or we go running. So what would you do for your mind?
Yeah, so there are 6 well-being parameters that we are measuring people on. And based on this, the recommendations could be how do you improve your relations with others? Now, I think this is a well-established fact in longevity as well that it's very important how we are socially. So there are recommendations around that. It's very important that you have a lot of confidence about yourself and your own personality. So then there are recommendations around self-acceptance and autonomy. You would want as an individual to be forward-looking, looking into the future, embracing change. So then we have recommendations around personal growth. We have recommendations around environmental mastery. So you want to be comfortable in that environment you are. So it's a combination of all of these. It looks at intrinsically based on the questionnaire that you answer, where are you, what's your score across these well-being parameters, and then the AI dynamically determines what sort of recommendations should work for you. So there could be two individuals who have the same starting and end point in terms of the islands of emotional stability that they should look to achieve, but there could be infinite pathways how we can reach from one point to the other. And that's why our focus with the aging clocks that we are building is that these are eminently scalable. We can apply that on large populations, we can apply that on large group of people, and be able to give them recommendations and pathways which are very unique to the individuals.
Right. So you are you're B2B, right? You don't sell to consumers directly. So mostly these would be individuals within an organization who are whose I guess whose mental state you're looking at. Would that
That
be
is correct.
that
Yeah,
is
we don't do direct to consumer as of now. We have a B2B model, so but we work across segments and industries, right? So we work with employers, the longevity clinics, of course, hospitals, consumer health companies. So it could be the employees, it could be the customers, it could be the end users of these organizations.
interesting. Do you see actually you work with industry? Do you see biological age being accepted as a I guess as a marker, as a parameter by companies like insurance companies, or do they still they're only concerned with chronological age?
No, insurance is a very interesting industry. We think it is ripe for disruption. Uh, it's an industry which is very, mostly very profitable, but also sort of set in the past. The insurance industry works on a set of rules, right? Every year, the industry will collate all the claims data from all the providers and publish what's the what's the average lifespan in a country, which conditions are most prevalent, and then they will create rules, right? So, well, if you are 50 years old and if you have diabetes, then your premium would go up by certain percentage, and if you have diabetes and if you have higher cholesterol as well, then your premium will go by certain percentage. And these rules are sort of more or less works the same way across companies. So that's one thing. The second thing is this industry is also highly regulated, right? You wouldn't want an ecosystem where every industry is sort of looking for the healthy individual and therefore not ensuring the individuals who aren't so healthy and they are left on their own. And the governments and the regulations won't allow that. However, what it does, and this is the third scenario, is that if you are 50 years old and you are absolutely in prime health and you're running marathons, then you shouldn't be paying the premiums which other 50-year-olds are paying, because possibly you are healthier than 40-year-olds in the cohort of the insurance companies. So there is an opportunity for the insurance companies to come up with better products, smarter products that actually serve their customer base. And they're not doing that today. So we think we can play a very important part in that process. At least we can work with the industry where they can look to create those models which can be deployed in the future. When working with regulators, they make them understand on what is feasible, how they can bring more value, how they can bring more value to the population without, let's say, penalizing the population at large, right? But at least they should be thinking in those lines and looking to run experiments on those lines today, so they are ready for the future in 3, 4, 5 years. They are doing some of that, but they are doing it in their own. They are not really looking to partner with organizations who are sort of at the edge of innovation yet. I think they still have some reservations around that. So that's one part where you can understand the reservation because of regulations and the other factors which I outlined. But the other aspect is customer engagement. At the end of the day, it is in the interest of every insurance company that the population that they are covering and insuring stays healthy. Because if they have less claims, then it improves their bottom line tremendously. And we think we can play a big part in that. We can play a big part in customer engagement. My personal belief is that biological age is a very important statistic that everybody on this planet should know. Like people should know what is their height and their weight. They should know their biological age as well. And once people know that, we think this is going to be a great motivator for them to do something about their health. It's going to be the real nudge which will really move the needle in the real world.
So thinking of biological age as a marker that you could use in a clinical test. So do you think biological age is kind of ready for that? So if I could show that a drug or an intervention improves my biological age, should that then be something that would kind of advance a drug to or an intervention? And which one of your clocks do you think would be the most practical for such a clinical endpoint?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We think it should, right? We think biological age as well as organ health scores can become endpoints in these studies, which would help determine the progress or the efficacy of the treatment being studied. The challenge, though, is, especially when it comes to drug trials, is FDA, I don't think, accept biological age as an endpoint today. So then what do you do with the data? And again, my perspective on this is similar to what we are doing, what I said about the insurance industry, is that you are, as a drug company, you're anywhere doing a study which is spanning months, covering hundreds, sometimes thousands of individuals, and you're collecting a lot of data. And not all the data is reported to the FDA. You report the data which is relevant to a study, which is outlined in your protocol. So you can actually start looking at, even retrospectively, all your data and start looking at biological age as a statistic and see, is it or was it consistent with your findings? You beginning to see in the industry, and Viagra is a most popular example. So many studies look at one condition, and then you find out that the drug actually has other benefits, right? So when you are looking at all the GLP-1 drugs now, many of them were being studied for different causes, and now you can see that they can be looked at or repurposed for weight loss. So it's quite possible that there are a plethora of drugs out there. And again, metmorphin is a very known and common and popular example, which have been deployed for a certain purpose, but which might have your properties which are akin to longevity. So if drug companies look at their past data, look at even in the current studies and look to calculate biological age, I think that this would tell them a story, give them a perspective which they don't have or have not thought of. And this could then open so many doors and so many investigations. And at some point in time, if the regulator is open and says that, yes, I would like to look at this statistic, then all this data would become even more relevant. But the you don't need any additional effort, right? You already have the data in terms of, let's say, blood age. You would have the blood samples of all of the subjects, and you have it all in a repository. Why don't you calculate the blood age and see what does it tell? Right? Is it consistent? Is it behaving? Is it telling you a story? And to answer your second question, we think blood age is most relevant. Simply because it is very consistent with the change of your blood biomarkers. It is very consistent with whatever happened before and after. So you can actually track your biological age before and after any treatment, any protocol that the subject underwent.
Okay, so blood age is quite amenable to intervention in that, if if I make a lifestyle change, I should be able to see an improvement in my blood age.
Absolutely, you
Abs-
would. And that is why it is so popular in the clinical setting, where people are saying that there are so many aging clocks now out there, and you can look to predict your biological age based on that. But from the very beginning, our focus has been on the so what, right? So I know my biological age, and you tell me I'm biologically older, so there is a concern. But now what do I do? And then how do I know whatever I have done, whether in terms of lifestyle changes or taking supplements or changing my diet or doing exercises, how has it helped me? Right? And how much has it helped me? So yes, blood age would be able to reflect any of those changes.
Interesting. And so blood age is based on the biomarkers, on like the normal, like the LDL levels and this kind of the standard kind of biomarkers. Okay.
Yes,
Um,
that's correct.
when we were talking about the mind age, you said that there were some interventions that you could suggest that you would suggest. Do you do that for the other clocks? For like blood age or for the epigenetic age, do you have interventions that you propose?
Yes, we do.
You do.
Our blood age is very detailed in terms of the recommendations are very detailed in terms of what you should do based on your overall blood profile. To the extent where we have carved out weekly diet plans that this is what
Hmm.
you should have for breakfast, lunch, and dinner 7 days a week. We have carved out exercise plans. We have recommending what you can do in terms of uh, your lifestyle changes, right? So, and sometimes it is what Alex was saying, right? Do what your mama says, but people need reminding, right? Make sure you sleep enough. Make sure you have your 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Make sure you drink enough water. Make sure you focus on oral health. So when
Hmm.
you're looking at health and longevity and all of these things, who's talking about oral health? So remind
Hmm.
people of all of these things, and we understand that when you give somebody all of these things, it's very unlikely that they would be following all of that unless it's a person who's very, very oriented towards their health. However, what our focus is through technology, can we help a lot of people? Can we help tens of thousands and millions of people? And we are building technology which can help people at scale. And at that level, with that perspective and lens, if people are following even some of those recommendations, right? If they
Hmm.
are just drinking water consistently or sleeping consistently or making small changes in their diet inspired by whatever we are sharing with them, I think it will have a significant effect with their health and the health of the population at large.
How Okay, how do you see AI changing the longevity space in the near future? I mean, or in the next 5 to 10 years?
It already is.
Mm,
I'm sure, again, Alex would have spoken at length in terms of using AI for drug discovery, and
mm,
we will see huge progress in terms of how the drug discovery, you know, timeline gets shortened using AI, uh, possibly even take away need for preclinical studies largely because you could simulate a lot of that using computational power and AI, and a lot of that is already happening. From our perspective, we think large language models are going to be quite transformative. We are using that ourselves. Potentially, every person would have an health assistant. Every person would
mm,
have access to a very high degree of qualified knowledge, which was previously there only with the healthcare practitioners. But now this sort of advice is available and would be available even more so to people. And that is going to be a huge benefit, right? Um, and again, using AI to know something like your biological age will really tell you where you are on the health continuum, where you are compared to your peers. That should be a great motivator for people to work on their health and aspire for longevity.
Yes. Yeah, it would be very cool if we could have AI-powered kind of advisors that were able to prescribe drugs.
So we are doing some of that at Deep Longevity already, right? So when I'm saying that we are able to, we have built solution and technology which can address people at scale and give them personalized pathways. That's what we are doing. We have used AI to actually determine that based on your overall, let's say, blood profile, we understand that these supplements are necessary for you. So some of that is pretty obvious. If you are low in uh, certain blood parameters, and you need to take vitamins for that, and that is easy. But then looking at your overall profile and then determining that, okay, right, you should be looking at a certain diet pattern, you should be looking at holistic health, you should be looking at exercise pattern, and then look at it from your age, from your gender, looking at what your height and weight is. This makes it very relevant. That makes it that, so when you see something that is applicable to you, you know you can pick it up and you can do it. Now, this is, and I'm not saying this, it doesn't get done, but it is a challenge for a physician to do that at an individual level. When they are pressed for time and they are saying one patient after another. If you see three patients who are diabetic, and you see what the physician is telling them, more or less it would be the same thing, right? Because, well, you are a diabetic patient, you should do this, and it will help you, and it will help you. But what we are trying to do with AI is we are trying to take it a step further and make it really personalized. That, okay, well, but you are 55 and the other person was 50, the other person was 45, and you are a man and you are a woman, so the bodies are different, and therefore different things should apply. And that level of personalization is possible only using AI and large language models.
And that's not here yet. That's what you're working on. Is that
We
correct?
Yes, but it's like we have a version 1.2 out already, which is close, and I think the next version, which we will launch in the next 3-4 months, should be able to tell you that, well, this is should be your calorie intake at this stage of your life. This is how much nutrients you should take. You'll get this from these sort of foods. This is the kind of exercise you should be doing. So we are not too far away. This is going to happen in 2024.
Interesting. And then that would be offered to your B2B clients.
That is correct.
Okay, that sounds really good. So, Deep, can you tell people where can they find out about Deep Longevity and see where see your latest research?
Yeah, again, our website, it is not the prettiest, but it is very, very recent and well populated and updated. Whatever we do, we make sure we post it. And you can see we are perhaps the most open, transparent organization in this field. All our research is published. It is listed on our science page. We post all the videos of our products so you can see how the products work. We are not worried about competition or who is going to sort of pick up and take our ideas. And I say this to everyone. I think this industry is just shaping up. There is a lot to be done. And the more people talk about longevity and biological age and biomarkers and interventions based on this and scientific understanding of their body, this will help them, it will help us. So yeah, I just say that follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, follow our website. That's the best resource. And everything that we are doing at the company, we make sure that we post it on our website.
So, Deep, thank you so much for joining us today.
Richard, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.